My name is Rachel Stone. I'm 34. A week before my stepson's birthday, he looked at me and said, "The best gift would be if you just disappeared." People at the table laughed. My husband didn't stop him. I smiled and said nothing. The next morning, I packed a bag and walked out quietly. But I left one thing on the dining table. When they opened it, no one was smiling anymore. Before I take you back, subscribe if this story earns it, and tell me your city and time in the comments. Now let me take you back to how this really started. When I married Mark, I didn't just marry a man. I entered a house that already had walls built inside it. Jason, his son, never accepted me. Not once. Not even politely. In the beginning, I told myself it was grief. He lost his mother young. Pain makes people hard. I decided patience would win. I tried everything. I learned how his mother used to cook and made the same dishes. I kept her photo frames clean. I never moved her things without asking. He still called me your wife when speaking to his father, never my name. Small things first. Don't touch my laundry. Don't rearrange the kitchen. Don't act like you run this place. I told myself, give it time. Time is what stepmothers are always told to give, but time only helps people who want peace. Jason wanted territory. Years passed. He was not a child anymore. He was 26 now, running his own projects, driving a car I helped pick, living partly on money Mark quietly supported. Still, the attitude stayed. The same. If I reminded him about a bill, I was controlling. If I cooked, I was performing. If I stayed quiet, I was fake nice. Once, in front of guests, he said, "She runs the house like a hotel manager, smile included." They laughed. Mark said nothing. That became the pattern. Disrespect grows where silence protects it. I kept trying anyway, because I wanted to be fair, because I wanted to be kind, because I believed effort matters. I was wrong about one thing. Effort only matters where it is seen. A week before his birthday, we were planning his party at the house. Relatives over, phones out, cake designs open, restaurant options being debated. Jason sat like the center of the room. His aunt asked, "So what's the one gift you really want this year?" Before that, he was already warming up. He looked at the snack tray I prepared. "You always buy the cheap brand," he said. "Even generosity is budget level with you." A cousin laughed. I said nothing. Then he added, "Dad, you should have just hired a house manager. Would have cost the same." More laughter. Mark smiled tightly, the smile he uses when he wants discomfort to pass without action. That smile is permission. Then came the question again. "What gift do you want most?" Jason looked directly at me. Straight eye contact, clear voice. "The best gift," he said, "would be if she disappeared from this house." This time, the laughter was louder, because repetition removes doubt. This wasn't a joke. I folded my napkin slowly. No reaction, no defense, because performers hate a silent audience. Mark said, "All right, enough," but softly, like volume was the problem, not meaning. Dinner continued. That told me everything I needed. Later in the kitchen, Jason came in again. "You don't have to keep trying," he said. "You're not my mother. You're not family. You're installed." Installed. Like software again. "I know," I answered calmly. That confused him more than anger would have. That night, I didn't cry. I reviewed something else instead. Old files, old approvals, one document still active, still valid, still unused. Morning came. I packed one suitcase, left one sealed envelope on the table, and walked out quietly. 3 days later, at his birthday table, that envelope would be opened, and the celebration would not survive what it revealed. But they didn't know that yet. The house was loud that evening, balloons tied to chairs, music playing from a speaker that kept losing connection, too many desserts, too many voices. My chair was still there. No one removed it. No one mentioned it either. That's how people erase you. Quietly, not officially. Jason walked in dressed like the event was about status, not age. Watch polished, shirt sharp, smile ready for photos. "Where's the manager?" he joked to the room. "Did the house finally run itself today?" A few relatives laughed. Mark forced a smile. Enough. Again, soft. Again, harmless. Dinner started late because 2 guests were missing, and Jason didn't like starting without a full audience. "I invited the bank guy," he said proudly. "Big connection, might help speed things up." "Speed what up?" his aunt asked. "Expansion," he said. "Bigger space, new location, real move." Mark nodded like a proud investor. Pride grows fast when results appear, even if you never checked the roots. Food was served, catered this time, not homemade. No one said it, but everyone noticed. Halfway through the meal, Mark finally asked, "Did Rachel message anyone?" Jason shrugged. Why would she? No answer followed, because the truth was uncomfortable. No one checked where I went, only whether I complained. The doorbell rang. Jason smiled. "That's him." A man in a gray suit entered. Neat folder, calm face, not a party person, a paper person. Jason stood and shook his hand too firmly, the way people do when they want to look bigger than they are. "Glad you came," Jason said. "Perfect timing." The man nodded politely but did not sit. "I won't stay long," he said. "I just needed confirmation on a few items." Mark gestured toward the table. "Eat first." "Thank you, no," he replied. "This is procedural." That word cooled the air slightly. Procedural visits don't bring gifts. Jason laughed it off. "Always serious, huh?" The man opened his folder and looked around. "Who is Rachel Stone?" My name landed in the room like a glass set down too hard. Mark answered, "My wife." "Is she present?" "No," Mark said slowly. "Why?" The man reached into his folder. "I was instructed to confirm delivery acknowledgement." "Delivery of what?" Jason asked. The man checked the paper. "Withdrawal notice." No one understood yet. Confusion is always quiet at first. Jason frowned. "Wrong house?" The man shook his head. "Correct address." Then he looked at the dining table. "I was also told an envelope would be here." Silence shifted direction. Mark looked down the table. There it was, still sealed, exactly where I left it. Unmoved, unopened, unimportant until now. Jason picked it up. "Probably nothing," he said, but his voice had lost performance tone. Mark opened it and started reading. Halfway through, he stopped breathing normally. Jason leaned closer. "What?" Mark didn't answer, because sometimes truth is too heavy for immediate speech. Across the table, smiles faded, forks lowered. Music kept playing, but no one heard it anymore, because paper had entered the room, and paper doesn't laugh at jokes. Mark turned to the second page. His face changed color. Jason said quietly, "What is that?" Mark whispered, "It shouldn't be." And that was the moment the birthday stopped being a celebration and became a realization. Mark read the first page again, then again, like the words might change if he gave them another chance. "They can't just stop it," Jason said, forcing a laugh. "That's not how things work." The man in the gray suit answered calmly. "It already stopped." The room went quiet. Even the music speaker cut out, like it understood timing. Mark finally spoke. "There has to be a mistake." "There isn't," the man replied. "The authority holder signed the withdrawal 3 days ago." 3 days? The same morning I left. Jason shook his head. "Withdrawal from what?" The man looked at him carefully, measuring how much he didn't know. "Support backing," he said simply. "Coverage guarantees. Approval bridges." Jason blinked. "Speak normal English." The man nodded once. "The safety net behind your expansion plan is gone." That landed, because even people who don't understand systems understand the word gone. Jason looked at his father. "Dad?" Mark's voice was low. "We were approved because of that backing." "Approved for what?" the aunt asked. Mark didn't answer her. He kept reading. Page 2, then page 3. His hand was shaking now. Jason tried to grab the papers. "Let me see." Mark didn't let go immediately. That hesitation was new. "Dad." Mark finally handed them over. Jason scanned fast, the way confident people read when they expect to understand everything. Halfway down the page, he slowed, then stopped, then started again from the top. "This name," he said quietly. No one spoke, because tension makes people afraid to interrupt truth. Jason looked up. "Why is her name here?" No one answered, because no one at that table except Mark had ever asked where the approvals came from. Success hides its builders when pride tells the story. The man in the gray suit spoke again. "We sent confirmation requests twice last quarter," he said. "She answered both times." Mark closed his eyes briefly. Memory was catching up. Jason frowned. "Answered what?" "Risk confirmations," the man said simply. "Continuations. Extensions." Jason looked around the table like someone would translate. No one did, because simple truth was already enough. Something important ran through my name. Jason tried to recover his tone. "Okay, fine. Paperwork stuff. We'll fix it." The gray suit man shook his head. "You cannot fix a removed signature." Silence again. Heavy this time. Mark sat down slowly. The birthday candles were still in the cake, unlit, forgotten. Jason's voice hardened. Why would she do this? No anger yet, only confusion. That's always first. Mark answered without looking at him. "Because she warned us." Jason snapped back. "When?" Mark looked at the empty chair. 3 days ago. At the table, during that sentence. Understanding doesn't arrive like lightning. It arrives like weight. Jason stared at the envelope again like more answers might still be hiding inside. "There's more," Mark said quietly. He turned to the last page, and whatever he read there made him sit completely still. The kind of still that comes right before truth is spoken out loud. Across the table, people stopped pretending this was small, because it wasn't small anymore. It was structural, and structures don't shake without something important being removed. Jason swallowed. "What else did she sign?" Mark answered in a whisper. "Not what." He looked at the page again. "Who?" And that word changed the direction of every thought in the room. Jason stepped closer. "What do you mean, who?" Mark turned the paper toward him but kept his finger on the signature line. "Primary guarantor," he said quietly. Jason frowned. "So?" Mark's voice dropped even lower. "That's not a bank." The gray suit man confirmed with a small nod. "Correct." Jason read the line again. Then again, slower, like reading it differently might make it less real. "That's her," he said. No one laughed now. No one moved. Even the relatives who enjoyed the jokes earlier were suddenly interested in their plates. Jason looked up sharply. Why would her name be here? Mark answered with the truth he had avoided for 2 years. "Because she put it there." Jason shook his head. "No, she doesn't have that kind of authority." The gray suit man replied calmly. "She did." Did. Past tense. Jason's jaw tightened. "You're telling me the whole approval depended on her?" "Not depended," the man said. "Passed through." Simple words, heavy meaning. Mark pressed his fingers against his forehead. Pieces were connecting now. Moments he ignored before. Late-night emails, calls taken in another room, quiet confirmations, calm answers when problems appeared, and then vanished. Jason tried to fight the direction of truth. "Dad, you handle the business. You sign things." Mark gave a tired half-laugh. "I sign requests. She signed backing." That difference hit harder than a shout. Requests ask. Backing allows. Jason stepped back from the table like distance might reduce impact. "That makes no sense," he said. "Why would she do that and not say anything?" Mark answered without hesitation. "Because every time she tried to speak, someone joked." Memory is cruel when it arrives late. Jason remembered the snack tray comment, the grocery bill joke, the disappearing line. Words come back louder when context changes. The aunt spoke carefully. Maybe this is being exaggerated. The gray suit man shook his head once. 3 supplier contracts, 1 property lease extension, and 1 emergency credit bridge were approved under her guarantee. He paused, then added in plain language, "When risk appeared, she stood in front of it." That sentence landed clean. Jason stared at the empty chair again. Not with annoyance this time, with calculation. "When did she sign the withdrawal?" he asked. 3 days ago, the man answered. Jason's voice dropped. "The morning after dinner." Mark nodded slowly. Cause and effect finally met. Jason exhaled hard. "So this is revenge." The gray suit man corrected him gently. "No, this is removal. There's a difference. Revenge adds damage. Removal takes away support." Mark folded the papers carefully, like they were fragile now. "Is there any way to reverse it?" he asked. "Yes," he said. Hope lifted for half a second. Then he finished the sentence. "If she signs again." Hope dropped faster than it rose. Jason gave a tight laugh. "Fine, we'll call her." Mark looked at him. "You will not call her." For the first time that night, his voice carried weight, because tone changes when truth forces respect. Jason picked up his phone anyway. Dialed. Straight to voicemail. Again. Voicemail. A third time. Off. He lowered the phone slowly. "When did she become this important?" he asked. Mark answered the only honest way possible. "She always was." Across the table, the candles were still unlit, because celebration needs stability, and stability had just walked out with 1 suitcase. No one touched the cake now. It looked strange sitting there, decorated, ready, and completely forgotten. Jason pushed his chair back, not angry this time, uneasy. "This is being blown out of proportion," he said. "So she signed some forms. Big deal." The gray suit man didn't argue. He just opened his folder again and placed another sheet on the table. "Before I leave," he said, "you should understand what she was covering." Mark read silently. His expression changed line by line. Jason watched his face instead of the paper because sometimes reactions explain faster than words. "What now?" Jason asked. Mark answered slowly. "When the supplier almost canceled last winter, she kept them in." Jason blinked. "You said you negotiated that." Mark swallowed. "I requested, she guaranteed." The difference was starting to repeat. "And the equipment upgrade?" Jason asked. "Same," Mark said quietly. "And the lease extension?" Mark nodded once. Memory was rearranging itself in real time. Every problem-solved moment now had a different owner. Jason's aunt spoke softly. "Why didn't she say anything?" Mark gave a tired smile. "She tried. We called it overthinking." Truth often knocks softly before it leaves permanently. Jason shook his head. If she was doing all this, why live so normal? Because helpers don't advertise. But Mark didn't say that out loud. The gray suit man closed his folder. "One more thing," he said. "There is a timing note attached." Mark looked up. "What note?" The man explained in plain words. Her coverage only activated when operations crossed a certain size. Jason frowned. "Meaning?" The man explained in plain words. The bigger you grew, the more her support mattered. Growth had a hidden pillar, and they mocked the pillar. Jason laughed once, short and dry. "So the more successful we got, the more we depended on the person we told to disappear?" No one corrected him, because accuracy doesn't need approval. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Just one line. "Delivery confirmed." Jason showed Mark. Mark read it once, then exhaled slowly. "Not revenge," he said. "Closure." Jason asked quietly, "What exactly did she leave us holding?" Mark looked at the envelope again, then at the papers, then at the business documents beside his plate. Responsibility. And upstairs, in the home office drawer, there was still one more document copy they hadn't found yet, the one that explained why she was able to sign at all. It was upstairs, inside the home office drawer Mark almost never opened because Rachel handled the boring files. Boring is what people call things they don't respect. Mark went up alone, not rushed, not panicked, careful. He opened the drawer and saw the folder, labeled in her neat handwriting, Operations, Backup Copies. Inside were printed emails, approvals, confirmations, all organized by date. No drama, just proof. On the last page was a simple letter with a seal stamp. Not complicated, not long. Mark read it once and sat down in the chair. Jason came upstairs 2 minutes later. "What is it?" he asked. Mark handed him the paper. Jason read out loud. She was listed as co-owner risk partner. Conditional, silent capital backer. He stopped. Plain English? Mark translated quietly. She put her own money behind the business when we expanded. Jason looked up fast. What money? Mark gave a tired half smile. The money she never talked about. Pieces connected again. The old savings she mentioned. The consulting work he joked about. The private calls he ignored. Jason sat on the desk edge. How much? Mark named the number. Jason's face changed. Not shock, recalculation. That's not small, he said. No, it isn't. Downstairs, relatives were already leaving. Quietly, no goodbye speeches. People exit fast when celebration turns into accountability. Jason stared at the document again. She trusted us with that, he said. Mark corrected him. She protected us with that. Different word, different meaning. Jason ran a hand through his hair. And we told her to disappear. Mark didn't answer, because repetition is punishment enough when truth is clear. Jason checked his phone again. Still off, still unreachable. For the first time, he didn't look angry about it. He looked late. Can we fix this? He asked. Mark answered honestly. Yes. Hope lifted slightly. Then he finished. But not with paperwork. Jason understood. Respect is not a form. It's behavior. Where did she go? Jason asked. Mark shook his head. She told me once if she ever left quietly, it meant she already had somewhere better to stand. Jason gave a small breath laugh. She really planned everything. Mark looked at the folder again. No, he said softly, she prepared for reality. There's a difference. Jason looked toward the hallway, toward the empty room she used. I thought she needed this house, he said. Mark closed the folder. No, he answered. We needed her presence. They went back downstairs. The cake was still there, candles burned halfway down into wax. No one wanted a slice anymore. Jason picked up the knife, then set it down. Don't, Mark said. Why? Because this isn't a birthday memory anymore. Jason nodded once. Some days stop being celebrations. They become lessons. 3 weeks later, a short message finally arrived on Mark's phone. No anger, no blame, just one sentence. I hope the house feels more honest now. Jason read it twice. He didn't reply. Because some apologies are too small for the damage done, and some exits are not meant to be reversed.